Okay, this is my project, Eco-Ethanol by Nikki Slobodnik. So what is biofuel? Biofuel is a branch of renewable energy, which is an energy source that is not depleted when it's used, and it's constructed of organic materials. And then these materials consist of things like plants and algae and animal waste, and the fuels are made from different biological processes that take the natural materials and turn it into the fuels that are rich and are used in our everyday, like transportation and heating of our buildings and basic electricity. Okay, and then what is ethanol? Ethanol is a type of biofuel created from fermenting plant-based materials, and ethanol is largely used in transportation as a gasoline additive, and this is to reduce air pollution, and it's made from gasoline and to limit the greenhouse gas effect from it. Ethanol is a sustainable renewable energy resource, as it also makes advances in using non-food biomass in its production too, which also lowers the greenhouse effect. Ethanol is one of the most widely used types of biofuels due to its availability and its environmental benefits. Okay, how is ethanol grown/cultivated? Ethanol is made from different popular crops that include like corn, sugarcane, and different types of grasses, and each of these crops are cultivated in various conditions and climates. For example, corn is grown in regions where the soil is very fertile and has lots of water, versus sugarcane. Sugarcane is grown in tropical conditions and needs lots of rainfall, versus the grasses are grown on marginal land which require like fewer resources to maintain. And each of these plants are used to produce and harvest their sugars/cellulose, which is used in the fermentation process to produce ethanol. Also, the waste can be used as feedstock to provide a more sustainable way to produce ethanol with a limit of food resources. Okay, biofuel production. Ethanol is produced from different plants, like I said, corn, sugarcane, and grasses, and that photosynthesis is used to make sugar. For example, the corn and sugarcane create the glucose through the photosynthesis, and then the sugars from these plants the sugars from these plants are used in the fermentation process, and they're broken down by yeast. And then the yeast in the fermentation then turns the sugars into ethanol and carbon dioxide, and fermentation is an anaerobic process, meaning it does not require oxygen to take place. And essentially, the energy is stored within the plants, taken out, and then transformed into ethanol, which is renewable resources. Okay, so developments of ethanol. Ethanol is widely available and has been used in the last decades commercially. Ethanol is basically used as a blend of gasoline, and gasoline is blended with ethanol to create E10 ethanol, and this is used in vehicles around the world. Ongoing research is that even though ethanol is still like a really good type of biofuel, the research is developing a new type of ethanol, which is cellulosic ethanol, and it's made from no food products, and it's only made from agricultural waste. Okay, ethanol has a relatively low carbon footprint compared to gasoline, and this is because plants absorb carbon dioxide when they grow, offsetting the emissions when ethanol is burned, resulting in ethanol being able to reduce the CO2 emissions by 20 to 50% compared to the gasoline. In comparison, though, the overall carbon footprint depends on the factors and practices used in the farming of the plants used to produce ethanol. That's why advances in cellulosic ethanol, a second-gen ethanol, is crucial in further reducing the emissions. Okay, the economic impact in biofuel to the public. Positive ethanol's economic impact is significant because it boosts jobs in farming, as well as like production and its processing. Ethanol also supports energy independence, as our country does not need to rely on imported oil. Negatives is that production of ethanol increases water and land use, which raises concerns about like if food prices are going to go up in the U.S. Government mandates have imposed like the U.S. Renewable Fuel Standard to require minimum levels of gasoline promote ethanol. In addition, different campaigns and organizations are used to communicate ethanol as a good renewable energy to the public, and highlights the benefits to the environment. The next steps, if funding was not a problem, I would definitely develop the cellulosic ethanol because it requires intensive technology and investment. So if there was ample money to be spent, I would be spending it on improving this type of ethanol. And then my analysis is that ethanol is a great renewable energy resource as it limits the amount of greenhouse gas emissions. My next steps would be to, like I said, increase funding towards developing cellulosic ethanol, because it's made from non-food plants, so we don't have to worry about like if we don't have enough food. And this could help with reducing its negative effects towards the environment. And then these are my citations.